Hey everybody, Chris of Midlife Crisis Media here. Welcome to another recent pickup stream. This is number 107. Everything I've added to my physical media collection in March 2026. Well, last month I did a 2-month stream that covered 2 months. It covered January and February because in January I barely did any collecting. And in February I did a lot of collecting. At the end of February I received my bonus from work and a lot of stuff that I have been wanting to buy for a long time. That was the excuse I needed to do it. Sad thing was, a lot of it didn't show up until this month. I did do a lot of shopping at a local game store at the end of last month, which is where all the game pickups mostly came from. This month, it's a good mix of everything. What is up, Man Boy Cave? What's up, Retro Couple? I have fallen for it. You have to excuse the coughing. Not this weekend, but weekend previous, I had like the first full-blown allergy attack I've had in like 6 years, and it hit me like a ton of bricks, and I'm still coughing up the junk. So I just took something for it, so hopefully that'll help. Got something to drink here. So what do I have this month? I have a good selection of non-gaming related stuff, you know, like the knickknacks and the it's not a movie, it's not a game. I also have a good stack of movies and a good stack of games to talk about. So this is going to be a very diverse stream. What's up, TJ? How's it going? Good to see everybody here. Yay. Okay, so first things first. Let's start off with all of the non-movie, non-game related stuff. And surprisingly, a lot of it is books. I don't know if this is going to be interesting to everybody, but it's interesting to me. I really kind of, like, ever since, you know, I got my eyes back, I've really been reading quite a bit. And now when I go to Half Price Books, it's not really to look for movies or games anymore because they normally don't have anything, at least the one by my work. I end up going and looking at the sci-fi and the horror sections now, where the books are. And I usually find a lot of cool stuff. And I did actually order quite a bunch of stuff with my bonus money. So we'll start with the books. And I don't go for paperbacks normally, unless that's the only way the book was originally released. I tend to go for hardcovers. I love hardcovers. I'm very particular about my books. I don't like reading paperbacks because I'm always afraid I'm going to break the spine and ruin it. So every one of these is a hardcover. So I'll try to burn through them as fast as I can. Was putzing around on Amazon at work, and I found these, and I was like, well, I already have the paperbacks, but like I said, I don't like paperbacks, so I upgraded to the hardcover books. And that is the novelization of Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, and the novelization of Star Trek III, The Search for Spock. Like I say, I'm a huge Star Trek fan, so these are awesome. I've read these before, way back in the day when I had my paperbacks that I replaced, and super glad that I found these, not only with the slip, what do they call it? The paper backing, I don't know what they call it. I can't ever remember the slip. Not only that, but they are in very good condition for stuff that, you know, this one was released in 1982 and this one was released in 1984. So yeah, super glad to get those. So we'll do all the, like, I have a lot of Star Trek stuff here. We'll do all the original cast stuff first. Picked up this book just this past weekend at Half Price Books, and that is Star Trek Vulcan's Heart. This is part of a trilogy of books. I don't, like, one of them's Vulcan Forge, and I cannot remember what the other one is called, but I'm in a Star Trek book group on Facebook, and somebody had just brought up that they had finished reading this trilogy, and they thought it was pretty fantastic. It's basically takes place during the motion picture era, and is more developing Spock and Saavik from Star Trek 2, 3, and 4. There was a deleted scene in Star Trek 4 where, because of what happened in Star Trek 3, Saavik was pregnant with Spock's kid. And this is supposed to cover that, I guess. So yeah, Vulcan's Heart, Vulcan's Forge, and something else Vulcan. I do not remember what it is, and I don't see anything in here saying what the other book in the series is, but whatever. Glad I found that. I also upgraded this. This might be kind of funny. You might be down with this, TJ. But I found this on Amazon, and I decided to get this to take the place of the separate volumes that I have. That is Star Trek The Manga Ultimate Edition. So I had 2 volumes of this already at home. What's up, Glitch? 8-Bit Glitch? Yay! I already had 2 volumes of this separately, and this is basically 3 of them combined. So had to get that, because number 1, oddity. Number 2, it's Star Trek, and I love Star Trek. Now we can move on to the next gen stuff. I picked up the novelization of All Good Things. This is the finale of the Star Trek The Next Generation TV show. I did have this back in the day. It was a paperback also. So super glad that I found this at Half Price Books this past weekend. So that's awesome. The manga, that is a thing. It is definitely a thing. I still have the other 2 volumes if you're down with that, if you want them. Ordered these off of Amazon to complete the little subset that I wanted because I have the novelizations of 2 of the Next Generation films. I have the novelization of First Contact and Nemesis. So, got to get the novelization of Generations and Insurrection. This is the first Next Gen movie and the third Next Gen movie. And I've already read these. I ended up getting rid of Generations, First Contact, and Insurrection because I was running out of space on my shelf. And I was just kind of like, the only one I really want to keep is Nemesis because, like I've always say, that's my favorite of the Next Gen films. And I got rid of everything else, like the All Good Things novelization and a bunch of other stuff. But now I have another bookshelf, and that thing is filling up quick. And then we can get into these other things. One of them I found this weekend also at Half Price Books, and I did not know these were a thing. And I actually ordered the other book in this series today at work. You're the new Star Trek show getting canceled, and you haven't even had a chance to watch it yet. Oh, Starfleet Academy. Yeah, it's not for our age group. I think that's what the big deal is. It's skewing more towards the tweens and the early 20-somethings. It's like I only watched like 5 episodes of it, and I kind of gave up on it because I'm like, this isn't for me. It's like watching Saved by the Bell Star Trek edition. So yeah, I'm not really into it. I do like Nemesis more than First Contact. I hate the idea of a Borg queen. I think it's very counterproductive when it ruined how scary the Borg were. They did not have a leader on the show. They were just one mind, and now all of a sudden you've got this clearly individualized leader of them, and she's acting all sexy and shit. And I'm like, that's not what the Borg are supposed to be. So don't worry, I like the movie. Not my favorite though. It's probably my second favorite. Me being into Dungeons and Dragons, I really loved the Dungeons and Dragons film that came out a couple of years ago, Honor Among Thieves. And while I was at Half Price Books this past weekend, I found a prequel novel called The Druid's Call that's all about, oh God, what was her character's name? Doric. This one focuses specifically on Doric. Really interested in that because I thought that she was a little, out of all of the characters in the party, the adventuring party from the movie, she was the least developed out of them all. So I thought this would be really cool to get some more backstory on her character. And I found out there was another book in the series of prequels it has Chris Pine's character on the cover, but it basically covers the big mission that got Chris Pine and Michelle Rodriguez's character put in jail, where the sorceress who ended up being the bad guy in the film did that spell that froze everybody. It's about what led up to that mission, that heist that got them all captured. And it covers all the other characters that were in the group. Simon, the wizard, Holga, the barbarian, and oh God, I can never remember Chris Pine's character's name. And also, God, the British guy. Oh my God, I am blanking on names. Whatever. But really interested to read that. Let's see here. I'm inclined to agree Nemesis was better than First Contact. See, I like stories that show people like the flip side of themselves. So like Nemesis did the whole, you've got Picard and then you've got the what if version as Shinzon, and you also got that with Data in the movie. I love movies that do that or stories that do that. So that one spoke more to me. Plus it was a little more actiony. And it finally did something with the Romulans. I've been saying since they started making the movies, I wish they would do something with the Romulans, which is why I wrote that sequel script to Nemesis that did even more with the Romulans and tied a lot of things together. And I'm currently writing another sequel to it that's supposed to be like the finale of the movies for the Next Gen cast. No, don't get me wrong. I understand why everybody loves First Contact. I do. It is probably the best made. of the movies. It's probably the most fun. Um, give Data a lot of really cool stuff to do. Picard gets a lot of great stuff to do. It's very fun. It's very actiony. It's just like the thing that just ruins it for me is the Borg Queen. That's what ruins it for me. And I don't know, it's almost like the algorithms on like Facebook and Instagram and YouTube know when I'm starting to get into something. So like it's like I ordered those books off of Amazon. Now all of a sudden, these little short videos are popping up in my feed. People saying like, "Oh my God, you should read these horror books," and all that. So a lot of these have been popping up, and I've been like keeping some notes. And one of them suggested, and I found both of these at Half Price Books. Like I saw the video on, I think it was Instagram, like one day, and then the next day I decided to go to Half Price Books while I'm on my lunch break because I had plenty of time to spare. And like two of the books that were recommended in that video were sitting on the shelf, like waiting for me. So one of them is this one called How to Sell a Haunted House. And it's from the author of The Final Girl Support Group, which I think I kind of want to read also. This sounds kind of like a tongue-in-cheek horror story. So I'm really interested in reading that. Let me see if there's a description on here about what it is. What it is. The New York Times bestselling author Grady Hendrix takes on the haunted house in a thrilling new novel that explores the way your past and your family can haunt you like nothing else. It has a big, long description. I'm not going to read the whole thing. But yeah, it sounded kind of cool in those descriptions I was hearing on Instagram. And then the other one is a full-on horror novel. And this one is called Coffin Moon. And this one sounded really, really interesting to me. From the author of the exciting, suspenseful, horrifying Fever House, a Vietnam veteran and his adopted niece hunt and are hunted by the vampire that slaughtered their family. So that sounded really cool. There's another one I'm looking for called The Troop, which I think has popped up in 3 or 4 of those little recommendation, read recommendation videos I've been seeing, where that's about a troop of Boy Scouts who, for one of their badges, go to this island off the coast of New York or something, and there's another person already out there who has some sort of a parasitic infection, and it turns into this body horror thing. And I'm like, okay, that sounds really cool. Didn't they set up the Queen in TNG, or am I remembering it wrong? Yeah, they never set up a Queen, ever. They retconned it so much in First Contact to squeeze it in. Which is what bugged me. I was like, they could have at least, if they were going to do that, at least set it up in advance. They didn't bother. They just kind of like threw it in there. Don't get me wrong. Also, I think Alice Krige did a great job playing the Queen. She took something that could have been like this hokey like role and made it weirdly sexy and really interesting. But I just don't like the fact that she's there. But the big book thing that I bought this month is this past weekend. A couple of my friends and I went to to Minneapolis. God damn, I can't talk. We went to Milwaukee. We went to Milwaukee, Wisconsin for a convention. It's like a mini Gen Con. So it's all about like card games. It's mostly about war gaming, like Warhammer, Necromunda, Malifaux, that kind of stuff. But it's also card games, tabletop role-playing games, all that board games, all that kind of stuff. It's called Adepticon. And my friend Justin has been going there for the past few years. It always happens at a bad time for me when I can't go. I was free this weekend, and the thing is, it's free to go. It's free to get in. There is no admission fee unless you're going there to demo games that are being demoed all weekend long. Like, you have to pay for that. But if you're going there to just shop and hang out and all that, it's absolutely free. So I was like, that's good for me. I don't want to be spending any money because Midwest Gaming Classic is coming up, and it was held in the exact same convention center that the Midwest Gaming Classic is held every year now. So I was like, it's cool, free to get in. I don't plan on buying anything, but I did find something, and I bought it because it was 20% off. A free con, sus. It was awesome. It was great. It was huge. So much stuff. So many people, like, you would think that like when people are playing those war games that there'd be like screaming and fighting and going on. No, everyone was like being super nice to each other. It was really, really. It was nice to see, because I've been at some game stores where they do that kind of thing. Where, I mean, I am not kidding. There was a game store that I would go to that's in Niles called Pastimes, and I would go there for this. There's a deck building game I used to play all the time called Ascension, and they would have these Ascension tournaments. And when I would go there, there'd also be a Yu-Gi-Oh tournament going on in the tables behind us. And there were these kids that were like psychopaths. It was like every kid that was playing the Yu-Gi-Oh game was a freaking psychopath. And there was two kids that were in wheelchairs. And if they would lose, and I am not exaggerating, they would grab the handles of their wheelchair and launch themselves across the table to choke out the other person they're playing. Everybody there was a psycho. So it was nice to not see that happening, and people were actually playing like, Warhammer and all that and being civil. It was really nice and refreshing. So didn't really go there with any intention of buying things. It was like something to do with some friends and hang out for the day. But yeah, I went to this one booth. This is the only time I saw this at the convention. And luckily that because it was Sunday, it was the last day of the con, a lot of the booths were discounting everything. So when I brought this up to the guy, he's like, hey, 20% off the price. And I'm like, that's even cheaper than it is on Amazon right now. So I'm getting a great deal. And that is Daggerheart. This is a thick boy, too. So this is the new, within the last year, tabletop RPG developed by the people at Critical Role to directly compete with Dungeons & Dragons. They don't play this in the current 4th campaign that they're streaming on their YouTube channel, but everything else that isn't that campaign uses Daggerheart. It plays a little bit like D&D. It's all using 6-sided dice, and it uses cards. And that's why this is so big. So the slip comes off, and you've got your rule set book, the core rule book, and you create characters just like you do in D&D. They have their own names and designations and all that kind of stuff. But the big difference with this is, the other thing that it comes with is a bunch of cards. And these are your special ability stuff. There's spells and abilities for each character class. And the way this works is, I think you have to buy a special set of dice, which I'm surprised this did not come with. And certain dice certain sides of the dice have symbols on them. One of them is called hope, and one other symbol is something, and I can't remember what it is, but it's something negative. And when you roll a die and you get a hope symbol, you write down that you got one, and you build up hope points that you can spend later on those cards. Each one has like a monetary value, and you're like, I'm going to spend 3 of my hope points that I've been building up over the course of the game to do this one thing. But the negative ones, the dungeon master, the game master will use those that you have built up. He takes a tally of those as they appear, and he can use those against you to do things that he does behind the screen. Let's see here. Experiencing something like that with Gundam was in a tournament even before we started. The guy said he forfeited because he lost his last game and refused to play me for fear of losing again. The guy swore at me and wheeled off. What? People are psychos. I don't get it. You're there to have fun and play a game. It's competitive, but be an adult about it. I can understand kids being, these are all like 14, 15-year-old kids at this Yu-Gi-Oh thing that was always happening at that store. I can understand them being mouthy and immature about it, but like when you see adults doing shit like that, count me out. So I've been wanting to get this Daggerheart thing for the longest time, but it's sold out almost everywhere, which is why I think I only saw one of these at the con on Sunday. So, like I said, I saw it, and I'm like, I have not seen one of these in person, like, ever. I was considering buying it on Amazon, but it was sold out. And then on top of it being the only one that I saw, and it was 20% off, hell yeah. So I don't know when I'll get around to playing this, but it seems like a really cool thing to do on the side next to Dungeons & Dragons. But like I said, Critical Role designed this to be direct competition to D&D, and from what I understand, the reason it's sold out is because that plan is working. So that's that. Okay, that's it for books, but here's the other non-game, non-movie related stuff I've picked up. There's only 2 of them. One of them is Star Trek related also, and I usually wouldn't buy stuff like this, but it has to do with my favorite Star Trek show, which is Deep Space Nine. And I think it's funny. Excuse me, and it's kind of cool. I don't think I'll ever use this, but I wanted to have one because like I said, it's from my favorite show, and that is, was it Master Replicas? I think did this. Yeah, Master Replicas put this out not too long ago, and when I first got my bonus check, I was kind of like just putzing around online, and an ad came up on Facebook for this, and I was like, "Oh God, yeah, I think I want that." And that is the Rock-de-Gino mug that you would get in Deep Space Nine whenever somebody would order Rock-de-Gino, which is the Klingon coffee everybody drinks on the show. There was 3 different versions of this. There was one that was just the plain mug, no branding on it at all. There was one that had Deep Space Nine, the logo on it, and then there's the one that had Quark's Bar. The plain one was sold out, so I got the Quark's Bar one instead. It was not expensive, but I just think it's super cool. I don't think I'll ever use it to drink anything. The design seems very counterintuitive for drinking, but as a lover of Deep Space Nine, I think I had to have it. And the other thing has to do with Tron. So there were a number. Did they replicate it masterfully? I hope so. What's up, Peter? Oh, you're not using your waves in games? Yeah, TJ, I really wish I had the one that was not branded at all, but like I said, it was completely sold out. So this was the next best one. I didn't want to get the one that just had Deep Space Nine on it. But when it comes to the Funko Pops that were released to coincide with Tron Ares coming out in October last year, they released one of Ares, one of Kevin Flynn, one of Athena on her light cycle, and that was it for the ones that were just put out for everybody to get. What I didn't know until it was too late was that on the Funko Pop website, there's always, I guess, whenever they release like a line from one property, from one IP, there's always one that they hold back as like a special limited edition that you can only get on their website. And once they are gone, they are gone. So I ordered the ones that I got off of Amazon, and then I kept on seeing pictures of another one popping up on my feed after that. Thanks, algorithm. To tell me that there was this other one, but it was all sold out on the website. So when I got my bonus, I went and got one off of eBay. It was not that expensive. It was maybe $10 more than it cost to get it on the website. But it did come in this like cool protector, like plastic protector, and it's like sealed. So I don't know if I'm going to open it at all. I'm just going to leave it to here. And that is of Eve Kim, who is the lead character in the movie, aside from Ares. She runs Encom. And this is her in her grid outfit when she gets pulled into the grid at the midpoint of the film. It's played by, oh God, what's her name? Greta Lee, who I think is a great actress. She's a fantastic actress. She's really likable. So yeah, I had to pick this up. Now I have the complete set of all of the Ares Funko Pops. I still hate Funko Pops, but because it's Tron related, I had to get it. And this even like has a Funko Pop like seal on the lid to let you know that it's official. So yeah, there's that. Yay me. You're on a transition phone and you didn't want to put all your accounts on it. Oh, Peter's using a burner. We get a drinky drink before I move on to the movies. That's pretty slick. Yay, yay. Okay, so now we can get into the movies. One DVD added to the collection, and I'm pretty sure you can guess what it is. And that is the original Tron. I have the special edition 2-disc DVD set, but this is the one that was released like when the DVD players, like when DVD players were first released, like the day they were that the systems, the units went out. This was one of the first movies available. Disney put out like 5 movies right off the bat, and this was one of them. And when I was working at a video store when the DVD players were released, and my boss wanted to start immediately having them available at the video store to rent and the movies to rent, because he kind of predicted that it was going to be the dominant format, because you also had DivX released at the same time, which is the same kind of thing. But the bullshit about that was you kind of had to keep paying to watch the discs. It was like you would pay the upfront money, and it was like $10 for a disc, which was cheaper than a DVD. But like the license to use it would only last for like 6 months or a year, and then you'd have to like use a credit card to unlock it again. And I'm like, yeah, that's why this format is going to fail. DVD did not do any garbage like that. So this is the original version that was released on DVD, like really early on in the DVD's life cycle. And this is the one that I originally had. So I ordered one from Amazon. Amazon had this up for sale. I ordered it, and it came in a black snap case. And I was like, that's not like what I had back in the day. The one I had, I remember, had a white snap case. So I sent it back, went on Amazon or eBay, and found one with the white snap case instead. And it was like $2 more expensive. It was not a big deal. So here's a list of all the movies that were released at the beginning of the DVD. It was My Favorite Martian, Homeward Bound, Cool Runnings, The Rocketeer, Tron, The Three Musketeers, Mr. Magoo, and Air Bud. I think the only ones I bought were Cool Runnings, The Rocketeer, Three Musketeers, and Tron. I think those are the only ones I bought out of that set. But had to have that for the collection. No doubt about that. You guys know this. You missed the interactive menus the DVD had. They did have great menus. Blu-ray and 4K movies have like a static picture that pop up. Yeah, I remember like they play like a little like movie, and then the selections would like pop up on screen, and then like there'd be like a little like my little intermission, but like with the two light cycles crashing into each other happens, something like that would happen, and before you would go to whatever your selection was, there'd be like Easter egg things too, little hidden selections and stuff. Yeah, DVD did a lot of really cool things that I'm surprised. Yeah, like extras don't seem to be much of a concern anymore for the major companies when it comes to like the home video stuff. Like last month I talked about Evil Dead Rise because I double dipped a 4K. I already had it on 4K, but the 4K had just the movie on it, and I think a commentary track. And that was it. And I was like, where are all the freaking extras? This is a modern day movie. You know that they're shooting behind the scenes stuff. You know they're interviewing everybody. You know there's special features that they have made. Why did you leave them off? Because they only want to put them on a Blu-ray, because they want to dedicate all the 4K disc space to the movie and the audio and nothing toward extras. Which is why when Arrow Video put out that 4K box set for Evil Dead Rise, I'm like, yes, I'll get that, because that has all the extras on it and the movie. The Rocketeer needs a remake. They're working on a real-time sequel to the Rocketeer right now. They've got everybody back, including Jennifer Connelly, and they've been working on it for like the last 5 or 6 years. I think COVID and then the strike kind of kept pushing it back, but I think they're still working on it. I keep forgetting that I can do this. I miss falling asleep and waking up to looping menu music, but the loop had a hard cut on the reload. Yup. I do that. I used to do that all the time. Okay, so that's the only DVD that I've bought this month. Now we can get into the Blu-rays, and there's only 2 of these. Talk about full moon features all the time on this channel. I'm trying to get all of the old full moon films that were released in the 90s on home video in my collection on Blu-ray. Charles Band, who runs Full Moon, is like slowly trickling out the titles, and it's like every year or like twice a year he's like, oh my god, I found the negative to this one movie from back in the day. Here's a remastered widescreen Blu-ray. Lately a couple of them have not been widescreen, which pissed me off. And he did another one. This one was the newest one, and that is Mandroid. This is the first in a series of 2 films. These were not ones that I saw back when they were being released. I only really focused on the horror movie stuff that Full Moon was releasing, but they released fantasy movies, they released a superhero movie, they released sci-fi stuff, but I mostly focused on the horror. So all these sci-fi ones, aside from like Trancers, I stayed away from. This one I finally watched during COVID because, what was it? It's not Freevee, it's Tubi. Had like a deal going on with Full Moon, and they had pretty much their entire library available. So all the ones that I missed back in the day, I watched on Tubi. and this was one of them. And the sequel, which is called Invisible. Yeah, this is not what the picture is showing. It's basically about like a suit of armor that gets made that you can control with this like headset that you put on to use to be able to work with this new element that has been created, which I do not remember what it is called. Does it have it on the back? It's not like unobtainium or something like that. It's got like some really stupid name. Yeah, it doesn't say what it's called, but there's this new element, and it's like dangerous for people to work with. So this mandroid does it, and then the guy who created it goes kind of crazy and decides to steal the element along with the mandroid and kind of like become like a supervillain. And the one of the characters gets sprayed with the element, and it makes him invisible. And that's where the sequel picks up. The sequel is definitely better than this, because this one is boring as hell. But I did use a little bit of this as the basis for that script I was working on, which was kind of like the Avengers of the Full Moon universe. So there's that. Unobtainium. Who's hitting up on Facebook? They should be here in the chat with us. It's probably Jason. He's probably spamming me memes. It is. It's Jason spamming memes. That's what he does. That's what he do. You beat me to the joke. The other one I picked up is not Jesus. You know what? Silence this motherfucker. There we go. The other one that I picked up from Full Moon is not from Full Moon. This is, I think, something that they purchased and then released theatrically in the 80s. So this is pre-Full Moon. This came from probably Empire Pictures. And I've never actually seen it, but it was like on deep discount on the website, so I picked it up, and it's called Creepazoids. And if that is not an awesome poster, I don't know what is. You got freaking He-Man and Teela, fighting over the sorceress who's down on her elbows down there against some monster. It says, your flesh will crawl right off your bones. From legendary cult filmmaker David Decato, who directed a whole bunch of stuff for Charles Band, comes one of the most beloved B horror fantasy films of the 80s, blending key elements of genre hits Mad Max and Alien, while also incorporating elements of bands Parasite and Metal Storm, but produced on a tenth of their budgets. Creepazoids tells the tale of 5 army deserters who wander the post-apocalyptic, post-industrial LA landscape, seeking shelter from an increasingly toxic environment and poisonous rain. They end up in an abandoned laboratory where they explore, have sex, and eventually run afoul of a cavalcade of genetically engineered creatures, including mutant rats, a monstrous baby, a massive, bloodthirsty H.I. Geiger-esque beast, and something even more malevolent. So I've never actually seen this, but I've always heard good things about it, and since it was dirt cheap, I said, why the hell not? Yay. Now we can get to the 4Ks, and there are a lot. And we're going to start off with, you guessed it, more Tron. So when Tron, I want to say it was the month before Ares came out, so we're talking September, Disney released the original Tron and Tron Legacy on 4K, but in the US, it was only released in a steelbook, and it was super hard to get a hold of. Luckily, I just so happened to be keeping track of when these things are going up for sale, and I got them the moment they went up for sale, and they were sold out 10, 15 minutes later. Sounds like a mess and a half of a movie. Yep, and I'm guaranteeing you it's going to be fun as hell. But overseas, they got standard editions of the first 2 films. And I wanted to get those in the collection also. So there's the original Tron on 4K. You can see the different ratings. I think these are from the UK. Yeah, I think it says British film classification. Yeah. Yep. So, yeah, this is it has all the same things that are on my my steelbook, but this is just the standard edition version we did not get here. And I also picked up the one for Tron Legacy, and I really do like that artwork. Here's another movie that has to do with your like what if version of yourself that I really love. With you got Flynn and then like his evil version Clue. So yeah, that same exact extras. It's just this is the standard, like the snap case version. Had to get those off of eBay. The ending actually made me look forward to what comes next. I finally got to watch Aries. Didn't think it was bad at all. I mean, like I'm not. I did see it 7 times in the theater, but I'm not delusional. I know it's not a great movie, but I just think it's really fun, and I love the soundtrack. The covers are embossed. These are not. No, they're not. They're just standard flat cardboard. The ending actually made you look forward to what comes next. I don't think there's going to be anything next because the movie bombed so bad. But from what I understand, Aries is a huge hit on streaming on Disney Plus. And I guess when it went up for like when you can rent it on Amazon or other sites, I guess it made a ton of money that way. I would, if they were going to continue it, I would just do like a wrap up limited series on Disney Plus and just call it a day instead of releasing a full on theatrical film because it seems to work better that way. But yeah, I would love to see, Ares and the Legacy storyline, collide. Now we can get into non-Tron related stuff. Excuse me. So one release from Kino Lorber this month is I think it's Guillermo del Toro's first American-made movie ever, and that's Mimic. This was released through Dimension Films, which is Harvey Weinstein, also known as Harvey Scissorfingers, scumbag extraordinaire. And he hacked this movie to pieces. Harvey he'd be like, yes, here's $20 million. Go and make your movie because we are artists forward. You do what you want, and that's all there is to it. But nope, when it comes back, when the movie's finished, then he goes like, I'm going to cut all the story out so the movie just moves at a breakneck pace and makes 0 sense, which was what happened to Mimic. And I remember seeing it in the theater opening weekend and going like, it looked cool. It had a cool idea, but the movie didn't make a whole lot of sense. And a bunch of characters come out of nowhere. I was like, it's bullshit. So when I found out that there was a director's cut that came out on Blu-ray, and I did have the Blu-ray of that, I watched it. And sure enough, wow, he cut out about, I would say almost 25 minutes of film, and that had all the character development. The story made sense. It was paced really well. It was actually kind of scary. And I was like, that's the way this movie should be watched. So when they released the 4K of it, I was like, I'm not buying it unless it has the director's cut. And this does. It's a 3-disc special edition that contains both the theatrical cut and the extended director's cut, which restores Guillermo del Toro's vision for this chilling modern cult classic. So if you haven't seen it, there was a plague that was spreading through New York that was being carried by roaches, and a bunch of geneticists created a special breed of insect that was like 3 or 4 different breeds of insect combined that would release an enzyme, and they released these things into the sewers to kill the roaches. All the roaches died, and then the ones that they genetically created were supposed to die off after 1 generation, and that was it. Well, it worked. It killed off all the roaches, but the things that they created did not die off. They just kept evolving, and now they can mimic us, and now they're preying on us. And it's pretty cool. I like it quite a bit. Mira Sorvino, Jeremy Northam, Josh Brolin, Charles Dutton. Yeah, the director's cut is definitely the way to go with that one. So I was glad to see that got a release. I got 2 from Shout Factory, one of which is Outbreak. This just showed up today. Like I came in from work and it was sitting on my porch. Saw this in the theater opening weekend also, and this is like the pre-pandemic movie to scare the shit out of everybody. Remember when there was that big Ebola scare in the 90s, and then we had the big Ebola scare in the beginning of the 2010s? The place I worked at, I actually filled the Ebola vaccine that was being distributed in the early 2010s when that happened. No joke. Yep. So, yeah, this is Dustin Hoffman, Rene Russo, Morgan Freeman, and Kevin Spacey. Yeah, and it's all about Ebola spreading through the U.S. And there is a scene that happens in a movie theater, which I still think to this day is one of the scariest moments in a film ever, where a guy that's infected with Ebola coughs in the theater, and it's like the camera's right by his mouth, and it follows the germs as they go through the air, float all around, and then go right into the mouth of someone who's laughing. Yup. Scary as hell, but still a pretty fun like action thriller. Dustin Hoffman's not exactly what I would consider an action hero, but he kind of does okay. Saw the second direct-to-film Mimic. It was terrible. Pretty sure. Yeah, they did make a third. Yeah, the second and the third one were terrible. I watched both of them because I was working at the video store when that shit happened, and yeah, they're god awful. No, I think the third one was after I worked there. The other one from Screen Factory is Devil's Advocate. Saw this in the theater opening weekend. Also, Keanu Reeves and Al Pacino. Keanu Reeves is a lawyer, gets recruited by this like new firm, or I don't know if he's new, but really well-known firm. And it turns out his boss, Al Pacino, is the devil. And it's really messed up. Charlize Theron is in this. Craig T. Nelson. And it's really, really good. It's really disturbing. The stuff that happens to Charlize Theron in the movie is really kind of creepy. And they actually had to alter this movie when it hit home video because they're in Al Pacino's office in the movie. There's this giant stone sculpture of like, I guess it was supposed to be like some sort of representation of like angels fighting demons kind of thing. Well, it was ripped off straight from a painting or something. And they did not get permission to copy it or anything like that. So they threatened to sue. The guy who created that painting threatened to sue. And the compromise was they gave the guy some money, obviously. And they said that in home video versions of the movie from that point on, they'll use CGI to like alter it somehow so it does not resemble it. And you can kind of tell because like it was a real sculpture in the background against the wall. And now when Al Pacino's like walking in front of you, you can kind of see like that they had to cut him out to replace the background, and it kind of looks weird. But it's not, I mean, outside of that, if you didn't know that they had to do that for the movie, you would never notice it. But had to get that. Also picked up from Criterion. So this is another movie I've never seen. I remember when I started doing those collection streams, like the video game collection streams, and I moved into my movie collection. I said I don't buy movies sight unseen. I never do that. I only buy movies that I have seen and I like. The only time I would ever buy something that I haven't seen is if it's like one of those direct-to-video DC Universe movies, those animated ones that, are straight to video, and the only way you can see them is by doing that. Well, I was going to go and see this movie in the theater. They're playing it at a theater by me that does like old movie. They play like older movies on like Friday and Saturday nights at midnight. And I've always wanted to see this. And I was like, what better way to go see this for the first time than at a movie theater? And my brother was going to come with. My brother couldn't go. So I didn't end up going because it was like a midnight show and I didn't want to be out there by myself. So then all of a sudden I found out that Criterion had released a copy of, or the release is on 4K and it was discounted. So I picked it up, and that is Network. This is from 1976. I was 1 year old when this came out. And yeah, this is the I'm mad as hell and I'm not going to take it anymore movie. I don't really know much about it other than it says it's a media satire directed by Sidney Lumet from a brilliantly incisive script from Patty Chayefsky. Is an x-ray of the corrupted soul of a corporate-dominated America, startlingly prescient in its anticipation of today's outrage-driven news cycle. At a struggling television network, ambitious executive Diana Christensen, Faye Dunaway, finds herself with a hit on her hands when disgruntled newscaster Howard Beale, Peter Finch, goes off script, transforming himself into a mad-as-hell prophet railing against the ills of modern society. But can she control the populist revolution they have unleashed on the airwaves? Garnering 4 Oscars, including for Dunaway, Finch, and Chayefsky, this no-holds-barred new Hollywood classic remains as fearlessly funny as it is unnervingly relevant. I really have been wanting to watch this for a long time, but just haven't gotten around to doing it, and figured this would be the way to do it. So, yay. Got a bunch of stuff from Arrow Video, and I already have one on the way to me right now, which I'll end up showing off next month. I was hoping it would get here by today, but it didn't. One of which was I had to get this one from the UK. Sometimes they only are able to license movies and to release in the UK on home video. It's a rare thing that it's not released in both regions, but when it does, it's not a big deal because 4Ks are region free. So I ended up picking up Spaceballs, the UHD. Yeah, this has a ton of extras on it. Way more than, because I already had this on 4K. But like I was saying with the Evil Dead Rise situation, it was from Kino Lorber. They did not have a whole lot of extras on it. This one has a whole lot of extras. Spaceballs, the documentary. Spaceballs, the costume gallery. Spaceballs, the art gallery. Spaceballs, the behind the movie photos. They have a blooper reel. There's a whole documentary on here about John Candy. Conversation with Mel Brooks and Thomas Meben, the two writers for the film. Farce Yourself, Spaceballs and the Scroobing of Sci-Fi. Yeah, there's tons of stuff on here. So had to upgrade that. And then they released two of those limited editions, and one of them you're going to be like, oh, cool. And the other one you're going to be like, why, Chris, why? I got something like smudged on my glasses. It's like right in my field of vision. That's better. So the cool one is Excalibur. This came out, I think, in 1980. 1981. This was one of those movies, like I've always said, when I was growing up, my parents would never allow me or my brother to watch horror movies because they would scare the shit out of us. But R-rated action movies, fantasy movies, cartoons, sci-fi stuff, that was okay. Like we could watch Terminator. I saw Heavy Metal in the theater in 1980, and that is all tits. Yeah, Commando we could watch, Arnold cutting off people's arms with machetes and throwing saw blades at people's heads and scalping them. But Jason doing the exact same thing is a no-no. But because this was all about King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table, it was okay. And it was a hard R. But yeah, watched it anyway. And was lots of titties in it. Helen Mirren shows off for tatas. This is 3 discs. Disc 1 is the feature in 4K. Disc 2 is the extras on a Blu-ray. And Disc 3 is the bonus limited edition exclusive Blu-ray, which has the 120-minute TV version of the movie, previously unavailable on home video, available only in lossless mono audio. So it has 2 versions of the film on it. And we watched this recently for my podcast, The Movie is Starting. Sounds like my kind of movie. Yay. This is like when Helen Mirren was like 25. This also has like a lot of stars in it who were not stars yet. Like Liam Neeson is in this. Gabriel Byrne, Patrick Stewart. They were nobodies at this time. Liam Neeson met Helen Mirren while making this movie, and they hooked up and were living together for a couple of years. And it's by John Boorman, who also did The Exorcist Part 2, but also did Deliverance. And yeah, it covers, The Sword and the Stone and The Lady in the Lake and, King Arthur coming to power and getting the Knights of the Round Table together, going off and looking for the Holy Grail, Morgana and Merlin having it out, and also Morgana, having sex with Arthur and having that bastard child of hers and sends her off to kill her dad so she can take over the kingdom. Visually, it's great. It has an awesome soundtrack. The dialogue and acting in this movie is shit. When we were watching it for the podcast, I was like, this movie looks fantastic. I love the music. They play Carmen Burana. Is that the classical piece of music over this? A lot of this. But the guy that plays Arthur flat out sucks. And for some reason, they dubbed him over with the most unenthusiastic voice actor ever. And he just sounds like he's bored the whole movie, and it's really bad. But Helen Mirren and Nicole Williamson, who plays Merlin, they kill it. They're awesome in this. But everyone else is kind of ugh. But it has a really rad ending. I really like it. I like it a lot. But the one that you're going to be like, Chris, why? Is Red Sonja. So, because I have the Arrow Video collection of all of Arnold Schwarzenegger's Conan movies, I figured I needed to have this in my collection because this is Conan adjacent. This was supposed to be a Red Sonja movie that featured Conan because they were both created by the same author. But for some reason, they were not able to get the rights to use Conan in the movie. So Arnold is in it. He's playing someone else named Calidor, but it's Conan. His sword even looks almost exactly like the one that Conan has. It's really kind of funny. Bridget Nielsen plays Red Sonja. She is terrible in this. Um, who else? Sandal Bergman is also in this. She played Conan's love interest in the original Conan the Barbarian, and then she died. But she plays the villain in this, and she's terrible. It's super cheesy. It does have Ernie Reyes Jr. from The Last Dragon and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2 in it as this spoiled little prince kid, but who does kung fu. But this is one of those movies that I used to watch all the time when I was a kid. And even though back in the day I knew it was terrible, I knew it was bad, I couldn't help but love it because it was like the whole fantasy thing. I was really big into fantasy back then. The Conan movies were awesome. Like I said, I was able to watch Conan movies, but not Friday the 13th or anything like that. So like it really was like something that appealed to me back then. I have not seen this in probably 25, 30 years. So we'll see how it holds up now. I'm guaranteeing it won't, but at least if I have a good time watching it, I'll be okay. But super thrilled that they released this. And look at all, I mean, for a piece of shit, look at all these extras right here. I mean, goddamn. All these interviews with pretty much everybody that's still alive that is working, that worked on this movie. Documentaries, comparisons to Conan. Yeah. Whole thing about Arnold. I don't think Arnold was involved in any of the extras, but there's stuff about him in the extras. So, had to get that. Working on some tokusatsu stuff. Picked up Space Sheriff Caravan. Sherivan and Scheider are calling it a day for now. I don't know what any of that is. Talk to me. Tell me something. What is that? Then we can get into the steel books. And first one is a television season. And you know me, I had to get this the moment it was released, even though this is probably the weakest season of this show so far. And that is Strange New Worlds, Star Trek Strange New Worlds Season 3. I have the steelbook of the second season as well. And yeah, I was not a big fan of this season. They ended season 2 with a pretty rad cliffhanger, and I think they kind of resolved it here. It was okay. But the resolution to what was going on with Captain Pike's girlfriend, the way they deal with it for the rest of the season, I think was so freaking cheesy and bad. I just was not a fan. And then like it's just seriously, this whole season just felt like there's an episode that deals with Trelane from the original series, who is like a Q type of character, but they never flat out tell you he's Trelane. You kind of have to figure it out for yourself. And like the moment he showed up and I saw his outfit, I was like, is that supposed to be Trelane? And then basically all the stuff that he does over the episode, I'm like, yeah, it's Trelane. It's just a really bad version of him. And it's like all these like callback episodes to episodes that haven't happened in the timeline yet because this takes place before the original series. Just I was not a fan. So, and I did not like the way the season ended. But we got 2 more seasons of this show that's already been shot to make up for how kind of lackluster I felt this one was. But I had to get it because, you know, Star Trek. I'm a Star Trek fan. I mean, I own Section 31, and that's the worst Star Trek thing I've ever seen. This just showed up last week, and that is the new Anaconda movie with Paul Rudd and Jack Black. I'm not a fan of the original Anaconda. I saw it in the theater, and I was like, this is the cheesiest thing I've ever seen in my life. It is like just, it's not bad good. It's just bad to me. But the angle they took for this reboot, I thought was genius, where Paul Rudd and Jack Black love the original movie so much, and they want to go and remake it for themselves. And they actually like get a bunch of money together, go out into like the Amazon, and actually start to film a new Anaconda movie. And everything that can go wrong does go wrong. It is a more of a comedy than a horror movie. And I thought it was awesome. I was laughing my ass off because this reminded me of me and my brother when we were kids. My parents bought us this Fisher Price video camera that ran on high bias audio cassettes, and it filmed in black and white. And we would make all these cheesy fan films based on movies that we all loved. We made Friday the 13th movies, Nightmare on Elm Street movies. We made one based on Shadowgate, the video game. Texas Chainsaw Massacre, all that kind of shit. Any movie that we loved, we would make a fan film version of it. I even did one based on Hardware. So this reminded me of me and my brother back then. But it's also super funny. And then when the cameos from the actors from the original movie start popping up, I was on the floor. I really, really liked it. It's not as funny as it could have been. I think it could have been a lot funnier. But as it is, I think it's actually pretty entertaining. So I picked that up. So Bad That You Love It. I haven't seen it in like so long. This Anaconda Don't Want None Unless You Got Buns. I think they actually do play that in the movie if I remember correctly. But yeah, I haven't seen the original Anaconda in like years, like decades. And then the last standalone 4K that I have on a Steelbook is a movie that I blind bought because I wanted to have it in my collection. Because I really liked the first movie so much, I had to have this. And that is Return to Silent Hill. And it is a Steelbook. It just comes with a slip. This came and went from theaters so fast. It came out in January, like mid-January. It came and went so fast that I had absolutely zero chance to go out and see it. I actually had asked a couple of my friends if they wanted to go and see it with me, like opening weekend. And they went and saw, I think they went to like Rotten Tomatoes and saw the reviews, and they were like, no, we're good. And I was like, okay, fine. I guess I'm not going to go see it. And then like a week later, I was like, okay, I'll go see it by myself after work today. And it's not playing anywhere. It like disappeared so quick. So when it was announced, like, I think 2 weeks after that it was coming out on home video already, I was like, I'll just get it. And if it sucks, I'll get rid of it. So I watched it this past weekend. I watched it on Saturday morning. And it's not that great. I love the original Silent Hill movie, even though it does not really follow the games. Like, it didn't have anything to do with the character from part 2, so why is Pyramid Head in it, since Pyramid Head was specific to him? It was in there for fan service. But I mean, like, even if you don't look at it like that, the movie I think is really good. This one is, and I hate to use a video game term, I have not beaten Silent Hill 2, so I've never played through the whole game. I don't know how it ends, like watching it for myself, but I know what happens in it. I've read plenty of and seen plenty about the game, so I know the themes, I know what happens in it, I know the different endings. So this feels like a speed run of the game. It involves the character from the second game, and he goes back to Silent Hill because his wife, what was it? His wife died. He goes back to Silent Hill because he thinks she's there. And then it's just like random characters pop up and then disappear for the rest of the movie. It's like Pyramid Head shows up like twice and it's just there. It has no context with the stuff that's supposed to be, he's supposed to be representing in the game, in the games. It's just, he's just kind of there. The acting is pretty terrible. I don't understand how in 2026 we can't get wigs or fake facial hair that actually looks good. I've seen plenty of movies that does. This one, for some reason, every character that wears a wig, you can tell immediately that it is a wig. And then the main character, when they do like a flashback to when he was kind of unkempt, his beard looks like somebody just basically took a handful of hair and stuck it on his chin. And it's like, it looks so bad. But like the nurses are there. I don't think they're supposed to be there. I don't think they were involved in the second movie. That's more of the first or the second game. I think they're more of from the first game. And it's just, like I said, it just burns through the storyline so fast. And I think they didn't have, from what I understand, they had maybe like a third of the budget of the first movie. And the movie feels super cheap. Like everything looks cheap. And like, there's like 3 monsters in the whole movie. And whenever those like creepy armless creatures that like spit the acid from their chest show up, there's always just one. And like it spits at somebody and then it disappears. but it does have cool stuff going on in it. When it does replicate stuff that's specifically from the games, it is really cool. I do like the story of it. I just don't like the way it was told. And the way the movie ends, I thought was kind of interesting too, because at least in the first three Silent Hill games, depending on what you do in the game, you can get a different kind of an ending. This one has a couple of endings. And it's like, which one do you think is the appropriate one kind of situation? It's not great. It's definitely the lesser of the two. I reviewed this on my Letterboxd account. I gave it a 2.5 out of 5. Where the original one, I probably give it a 4. So it had cool stuff in it, but like everything was working against him. Even though the same guy that made the first movie directed this, you could tell he had his hands tied behind his back the whole time because of budget. Which is kind of sad, because if this had a bigger budget and tried to space things out a little bit more, and not just try to like burn through plot points as fast as he could, I think it could have been okay. You forgot it existed? Yep. Like I said, it came and went so fast. But the big steelbooky thing I bought was one of the things I had planned to buy when I got my bonus. And yeah. Money well spent? You tell me. Let me get a drink first before I do this. This is also the last movie I'm going to talk about. So, this big monstrosity here I picked up. I've been wanting to buy it for a long time. I do still have 2 of the movies in this series because they are in 3D, and I want to keep the 3D versions of my collection, but I got rid of all the other ones. That is this big steelbook set of all the Resident Evil films, the Milla Jovovich ones. So it comes in a big steel box, steel book, and it has all steel books in it. So out of all the movies in this series, I like 4 of them. 2 of them can go to hell. So you got the steelbook for the first movie, the first Resident Evil. This is probably the only one that really kind of follows anything that has to do with the games in it at all, even though it doesn't do it at all either. So the thing that I heard about this was the idea behind it was the story of this movie is happening concurrently to what happened in the first video game. So all the stuff happening in the mansion in the video game is happening above ground, and everything in this movie is happening below ground in that hive. From what I understand, the second movie originally was supposed to tie the game and this together and do the whole storyline of part 2. They didn't end up doing that because budget. But I saw this in the theater, I think 3 times. I loved it. I thought it was super fun. I loved the music choices, especially like using 9 Inch Nails during that fight with the dogs. And the action scenes are really fun. It's not scary at all, but the zombies are really cool looking. I love everything about this one. It's super cool. It does have like angles and scenes that are like right out of the games. But does it follow the plot of the first game? No, not at all. Where you had the tyrant as the villain in the game, this one, like the big baddie, is a licker. But Milla Jovovich, butt naked twice in this movie, didn't give a shit. She's just like, check out my clam. Whatever. I like it a lot. This one gets a lot of watch for me. It gets a lot of watch time for me. Second one is Apocalypse. I don't like this one at all. Part 2 is my favorite game in the series, and I really hate the way they fucked it up in this. They had a great setup at the end of the first movie with the whole thing with Alice waking up from being experimented on, and she walks out into the street, and the entire Raccoon City has been destroyed. It's just awesome. I love that so much. And then this just squandered it. And like every single time a group of people are together and they say, hey, stick together, don't break up, that's exactly what they do, is they break up and everybody gets killed. It's really annoying. I hate what they did to the Nemesis in this. They turned him into a puss. Like, oh, you're my friend. Oh, I'll help you out. No, Nemesis is supposed to be this mindless freaking thing, not your friend. Absolutely hate this one. I hate everything they did with this one. I was like super hyped for this too, because the teaser trailer was great. The trailers were great. Like I said, the setup for this one was great, and they botched it. So when the third one came out, Extinction, I was not I was excited to see another one because I wanted to see what they were going to do, because the way the second movie kind of screwed things up, I was like, how are they going to fix that? And then they kind of retconned things, and for the better. And this one is like a post-apocalyptic version of the movies. This is the Mad Max one. And this is the one where Mila has like the full-on psychic power shit going on, and a lot of rad stuff happens. You finally get to see the Tyrant. You get what's her name? Claire Redfield, played by Ali Larter. Love that character. Love Ali Larter playing that character. A lot of cool action scenes. I love this one. This one is a lot of fun. Probably the goriest out of them all, too. But my all-time favorite is the fourth one, and that is Afterlife. This is the one that was made right after Avatar came out, and it was using James Cameron's 3D filming system. And the whole movie was just designed to be a 3D showcase. It was not designed to have a plot. It was not designed to have character development. It was supposed to be all about action and 3D. And that's exactly what it is. And it is still probably my favorite 3D Blu-ray that I own to watch in 3D. Even in 2D, the movie is super fun. I love the action scenes. The music is rad. Tom and Andy did this like industrial soundtrack, which is amazing, especially during the shower scene. But I absolutely love this one. It's my favorite one. I watch it all the time. And that leaves off with another cool cliffhanger that I remember saying when the fourth movie ended, I was like, how are they going to get out of this pickle? So that's where Resident Evil Retribution comes in, and I think they resolved it pretty well. This whole thing introduces like Ada Wong into the mix, and Leon and Barry Burton, and brings back some of the characters from the first movie. This is probably the last one that I enjoyed. This one is a lot of fun. This was in 3D also, and while it's not as well presented as it is in the fourth film, I still like this one quite a bit. This one is like I want to say probably like it's definitely the longest out of them all, but this one's probably got the most story out of all of them. But when it comes to the thing is, this one ends on such an awesome epic cliffhanger that I was like, oh man, the next one, I cannot wait to see how they get out of that pickle. And then we get Resident Evil, the final chapter, and they fucked it up as badly as you could possibly do. So the ending of that one has such an awesome like final image that I was like, I want to see how they get out of that. And they basically have it all happen off screen, and the movie starts in the aftermath of it. And I was like I remember saying in the theater to myself, like, this is some bullshit. And this one, I think, was supposed to be in 3D, but I don't remember seeing it ever played anywhere in 3D. And I don't know how it would have worked, because this movie is so psychotically edited that it gave me a headache. Like, you cannot tell what the hell is going on in all the action scenes because it is so fast cut. You can't see what's happening. Your eyes don't have time to adjust to what's going on. It's like worse than a Michael Bay movie at times. But like, as the big wrap up to the whole series, it doesn't really even have a resolution, because at the end of the movie, she's just kind of like, Alice, like, yep, I still got a job to do. It was like, God damn it. Really dislike this one, mostly because Ruby Rose is in it. I can't stand Ruby Rose. But like, yeah, this one is the most disappointing out of them all. It was like I think it was because Retribution had the highest budget, because Afterlife made like a killing at the box office. Like, it made like 10 times its budget back. So when Retribution was coming out, they gave that one a massive budget, and it didn't do nearly as well as Afterlife. So when it came to making the final movie, they cut the budget. So he had to scale back. So Anderson, who made like Mortal Kombat and a lot of the other movies in the series, had to like scale back what he originally had planned, and it kind of ruined the whole thing. So there's that. So yep, got the giant box set. Yeah. Now we can get on to the video games. And a lot of this was stuff that I had ordered at last month because of my bonus, and kept on ordering stuff over the course of the month. So we'll start with oldest games first and move forward from there. So I've really been going for Intellivision stuff lately. I don't even have an Intellivision. Me and Captain Algebra were talking about him getting one from his store that he works at on the weekends. He thought that they had one there, and turns out they didn't. So I'll probably look for one at Midwest if I can, because when I went game hunting at the end of last month, the store that I went to had a ton of Intellivision games by that company, Imagic, that I love. They're tied for first as my favorite developer for the Atari 2600 with Activision, and they made a ton of games that were not available on the Atari 2600 for the Intellivision. So they had a bunch of them there, and I just kept on ordering more. One of which was Safecracker. And this one, it says "Be a Master Spy" on the back. Hang on a second. Let me describe this for you. So the idea I thought behind this was you're breaking into safes and all that. But no, it says you drive the streets of Malporto behind the Iron Curtain. Your mission: steal valuable state secrets from one embassy after another. Be careful, it's dangerous. People here are terrible drivers, and any accidents cost you a chance to do your job. Secret police prowl, and they're well armed. You just might have to blow them away with your machine gun. Inside, you make a big decision: crack the safe with the secret combination, or blow it open with dynamite. The safe holds secrets your country desperately needs. If you use explosives, be ready for a wild chase until you reach your hideout. Succeed and be a hero. Fail and you'll rot in foreign prison. And the Intellivision is definitely a lot more powerful than the Atari 2600 was. So the games that Imagic is making are definitely a lot more in-depth and like detailed, and like there's more to them than your standard Atari 2600 game. So I can't wait to actually pick up an Intellivision so I can try these games. Another one that I grabbed was Nova Blast. Love that artwork. Definitely a altered Star Destroyer model. Just like in one of their games that I have on the Atari 2600, there's a altered Millennium Falcon. And this one it looks like a lot like Missile Command, if you ask me. It says, Red Alert, the 4 capsuled cities of Water Planet Hydron are under fierce enemy attack. You must pilot Nova 1, the last of the Novon fleet, over the turbulent seas. Blast Orion fighters, Gravitines, and 6 other types of aliens before they obliterate the cities or before they damage your ship with too many collisions. Watch the energy indicator. Beam fuel aboard as you need it. If a city's shield is demolished, beam down a temporary shield to protect the vulnerable metropolis. Use the radar to seek and destroy airborne enemies with lasers. Drop bombs on water walkers that fire rockets at you. You're the only one who can save the peaceful water planet from doom. Yeah. And each of these comes with the overlays for that weird-ass controller that the Intellivision has. I definitely made sure they had them before I bought them. But the big one I bought was this. This is probably the second most expensive game that Imagic made for the Intellivision. And I found some guy slipping on eBay. My superpower is still in full effect, y'all. And that is Dracula. Although that is not a great image. Usually, Imagic games have awesome artwork on the front, but that is like some teenager wearing like a Halloween costume. Not great. But you get to play as Count Dracula, stalking the streets of some city. And it says, Dracula rises again. Taking the form of a vampire bat, the immortal desperado leaves his graveyard on the stroke of midnight. That's bad English. He reaches the city to begin his bloodthirsty hunt. He can turn into human form anytime to bite his victims, but he has powerful enemies. Vultures attack him when he's a vampire. Vicious wolves chase him when he's afoot. Constables patrol the streets armed with wooden stakes that can freeze him in his tracks. But Dracula creates zombies who are his unholy allies. The clock counts the night away, but he must return to his coffin before the sun rises. Oh, no. So, had to get this one. I've been wanting this one for a long time, but like I said, it's kind of expensive. But I just was putzing around on eBay at work when I was on my lunch break, and I was like, no, that one's too expensive. No, that one's too expensive. That one doesn't have the overlays for the controller. No. Oh. So I will probably be looking for more Imagic games at the Midwest Gaming Classic this year, and maybe also an Intellivision itself, now that I have a CRT that I can play it on. So that's it for in television. I also finally finished a subset in my Mortal Kombat collection, and that is by getting Mortal Kombat 2 on the Sega Master System. So I already had the first. I picked up the third, I think, in February, and I picked this one up this month. And it's basically exactly what you would get by playing this on the Game Gear. So it's not great. It is very choppy. There's like 3 frames of animation per second kind of thing. But I have to have all the Mortal Kombat things, and this is so part 3 was always the more expensive of the 3 that are available for the Master System because that one was only released in Brazil. But I got it kind of cheap last month or a month ago, 2 months, or whatever the hell it was. I got it pretty cheap, and I was surprised. This ended up being the more expensive of the 3, so I waited until I got my bonus to pick it up. And I'm glad that I did. Now I have all the Mortal Kombat Sega Master System games. Yay, yay! But one of the big things I said to myself when I got my bonus was I want to beef up my handheld console collections. Especially when it came to like Game Boy stuff and even like Game Gear. So I ended up buying a bunch of original Game Boy games. What is that? There's some kind of a symbol on here. Okay, whatevs. One that I picked up just because it was by Konami and I thought it sounded interesting. I'm like, how is that going to work on a console? Then I realized I have other games in this genre on this console, so I guess they kind of make sense. But I picked up this one by Konami called Raging Fighter, and it is a one-on-one fighting game. And I remember like when I saw it pop up on my eBay feed, because I just typed in Game Boy game CIB, and I was just like cycling through everything. And when I was like, how is a one-on-one fighting game gonna work on the Game Boy? And then I'm like, oh, wait a minute. I have Killer Instinct on the Game Boy. There's a Street Fighter 2 on the Game Boy. I have all the Mortal Kombat games on the Game Boy. Yeah, it's happened before, so whatever. But after I bought it, I remember I asked Mr. Matthews, I think it was in one of Captain Algebra's streams. It was either Captain Algebra or Peter's streams, if he had played this. And he's like, I know of it. I have not played it yet because I don't like fighting games. I'm like, okay, never mind. So I bought it because it was not that expensive. And then did a couple of watches on YouTube on like, was it the World of Long Plays? And yeah, this looks like you could basically kick people in the faces the whole time and win. There's no real strategy involved. So, yeah, not sad I have it. It wasn't super expensive or anything like that, so I'm not mad that it's not supposed to be great or anything, but, whatever. One that I was trying to get, I was actually bidding on one of these on eBay, and I got outbid at the last second, which is what always happens when I do the bidding ones. And then I found one that was actually cheaper than that final bid was for the game from another seller. So I picked it up, and that is Dr. Franken. And this is a puzzle platformer. You play as Frankenstein. You shoot like electricity bolts out of your hands. I watched like a playthrough of this also on YouTube. Yeah, you're running around like the mansion. There's enemies coming after you and stuff like that. You can shoot these electricity bolts out of your hands, but it's also a little Metroidvania-esque. There's like areas of the house you can't get to yet until you do something specific, like puzzle stuff. And the music is, I think it was Moonlight Sonata. Like a chiptune version of Moonlight Sonata is the score for the game, which I thought was kind of cool. But you're basically looking for the parts to create the Bride of Frankenstein. So you're looking for body parts. Morbid much? But there's actually a sequel remake of this on the Super Nintendo also, so I might want to look for that. Maybe I'll look for that at the Midwest Gaming Classic. I don't know. But this one seemed like a lot of fun. So I picked that up. And then the big one was Wario Land 2. So I have Super Mario Land 2, Wario Land, Super Mario Land 3, and then this is a sequel to Super Mario Land 3. So they continued with Wario being the villain. And you can play this on the Super Game Boy, and I'm assuming on the Game Boy Color also, in color. But the thing is, I didn't realize was this actually got a release on the Game Boy Color as well as just a straight-up color game. So I'm like, okay, whatever. But I think I would rather have it for the original Game Boy because this is the console it came out for first. So yeah, it's another platformer. You're playing as Wario. It says, what kind of no good ruffians would break into my castle and steal my treasures? It's that rotten Captain Syrup and his black sugar gang. Couldn't come up with anything better than that. I'm looking out for bad guys and scavenging for coins as I track down my treasures. If I don't get them all the first time, that's okay. I can go back again and again until I find them all. Captain Syrup doesn't stand a chance against me. It says it has multiple endings. It's kind of harsh for a game that is aimed towards kids. But had to get that. So now I just have to get Wario Land 3, and I think I have the whole series for the Game Boy line. And then there's this. I could have kickstarted this, but I chose against it. But because I didn't think that it would be any good. I'll just be honest. I didn't think it was going to be any good, and I didn't want to throw a bunch of money at it and end up being garbage. So I waited until it came out, waited for a bunch of other people to play it, and then I was like, okay, if it's still available, I'll buy it. And sure enough, it was still available on the guy's website. So I picked up a copy. And that is Maiden of the Dark. This is from Tiger Chainsaw, fellow YouTuber. Met him a few times at Midwest Gaming Classic. He always hosts the second stage in the back of the vendor's hall. At least he has for the last like 2 or 3 years. I went game hunting with him once. Seth is a cool guy. Yeah, and he had a Game Boy game made. But like I said, I was like, I don't know if it's going to be any good. I've been getting very selective about the things that I kickstart, which is why I don't kickstart many things anymore, except those like documentaries that I like. So yeah, I didn't feel like I was willing to do that. So I waited until it came out. Everyone has been playing it, says it's awesome. So I was like, all right, fine, I'll buy it. And sure enough, there was more copies still available on his website. So I picked it up, and it is a platformer, I do believe, like a hack and slash platformer, 10 levels, boss fights, hidden secrets. It's an action platformer, according to this. Yes. Get a pretty decent label on the Game Boy game and a manual that is in full color, which is pretty awesome. I think the only other thing I would have gotten if I had pre-ordered this would have been a soundtrack. I think TJ, is that the way that this worked? If you kickstarted it, you got like a soundtrack also on CD. I know you're buddy with Seth. I'll have to buy like a separate case for that. My only gripe with this is, for some reason, Seth decided to have the box be just slightly oversized when compared to a regular Game Boy game. It's like just slightly longer on all sides. It's the same width, but a little bit longer everywhere else. And it does not fit inside one of these protectors. So this is going to be sitting there loose on my shelf, which I don't like. But whatever. Okay, so that's it for the original Game Boy. Is anyone actually still chatting? Is anyone still here? Like the chat just kind of stopped dead. The last person that I see is this one from Bobby. Okay, so moving on to the next console, and that is the only Sega Genesis game I picked up this month. And I was like really going out of my way to try to find some sort of Genesis game I could add to my collection. Because like I think I kind of have, aside from maybe like 5 or 6 games for the Genesis that I really want, like I think I'm kind of done collecting for the console. But it's just the stuff that I want is kind of expensive. So I was like, I went to like eBay while I was on lunch and I just typed in like Sega Genesis game CIB, and I'm scrolling through all this stuff. I'm like, no. And then this one kind of caught my eye and I'm like, oh yeah, I've always heard that one is actually kind of cool. I'll get that one. But it turns out the one that I picked is the one that's kind of damaged a little bit. We're talking Dinosaurs for Hire. My buddy Jason from Canada, basically, like when he saw the pickup picture of this, he was just like, that game is so rad. Like, all right, cool. So it's like a side-scrolling run-and-gun, kind of like Contra, but you're playing as dinosaurs. This is based off of a comic book from Malibu. And in the pictures, it didn't really show off the fact that the artwork is, excuse me, kind of damaged all around the bottom, which kind of annoyed me. But I'm like, you know what? I got it for a good price. There was like, I was wondering why this one was like $20 cheaper than all the other ones that were listed on eBay. Now I know why. And if I remember correctly, he kind of hid that too in the listing. Like he always had like something in front of it. So I'm like, all right, that's why I didn't notice it. But yeah, this looks a lot of fun, so I can't wait to actually dive into that. Then also wanted to beef up my Game Gear collection a little bit, and I got two pretty heavy hitters. Not that expensive, but like they weren't expensive because the outer boxes are not in great shape. But I don't care as long as I have a box and the game and the manual, I'm okay. So the first one I picked up is X-Men Game Master's Legacy. Turns out there are 3 X-Men games on the Game Gear. There's just one called X-Men, which I do already have. I picked that up at the Midwest Gaming Classic, and I think it's not quite a port of the original X-Men game for the Genesis. I think it's just more like a downgraded kind of thing. But then there's this one, the Game Master's Legacy, and then there's another one called Mojo World, which is the really expensive one, like really hard to find complete in box. But yeah, this is a side-scrolling platformer beat 'em up, and that one is actually really fun. The first one, so I was really excited to play through this one. It says a plague and a deadly double cross. The legacy virus is annihilating mutant kind, and the games master is holding the key. He offers the X-Men a chance to play his game and win the secret, but he also offers the same to their arch nemesis or other arch enemies, with the added satisfaction of destroying the X-Men. So the X-Men must split up to find their cure or perish forever. 7 playable characters: Cyclops and Storm, Wolverine, Gambit, Rogue, Bishop, and Jean Grey. Complete each level and reunite the team one by one. 8 searing levels of hand-to-claw combat from the Arctic to the Egyptian strongholds and on a lunar enclave. And you get to fight Mr. Sinister, Strife, Sienna Blaze, Apocalypse, Fitzroy, Exodus, Shinobi Shaw, and Fabian Cortez. Technically, no, there's actually 4 X-Men games on the Game Gear. There's the original, Game Master's Legacy, Mojo World, and X-Men, or Spider-Man and X-Men, which is the port of the Genesis and Super Nintendo game, the Arcade's Revenge. So there's 4. I don't know if I'll get that because I have that on the Super Nintendo, and I'm fine with that. So yeah, that looked really cool, so I had to snag that. And then Captain Algebra went and got a bunch of like Game Gear games. I think it was in February. And I was like, oh yeah, that one came out too. I totally forgot. Like, I've been wanting to get that. And him buying it reminded me to get this. So I found Streets of Rage 2. So this is basically a port of the Master System downgraded version of this. The music, which is awesome on the Genesis, is not so great here. The characters are super small. There's only 3 characters to choose from of the 4. So you only get to play as Axel, Blaze, or Skate, and that's it. And yeah, the game just like this very basic downgraded version. It's the exact same thing. It's just, and it has 2-player if you have a connector, like the Game Gear cable hookup. But yeah, it's just like a downgraded version of the Genesis game. But now I have both for the Game Gear, and I'm happy about that. Now I just got to get this for the Master System. Okay, moving on. So now we can move on to Game Boy Color. And I actually just completed this one today. So, which one do I want to talk about? Yeah. So, I have the soundtracks for the first 2 games I'm going to talk about here. And I've been listening to them in my car. And the soundtrack for a Game Boy Color game is pretty awesome. It sounds like something you would hear on the Commodore 64. And it's really, really cool. So I've been wanting to play the games that the soundtrack accompanies, right? These are nothing like the console versions of the games. The console versions of these games are first-person shooters that are on the Nintendo 64. The Game Boy Color versions are all side-scrolling action games, like run and guns. And we're talking Turok 2, Seeds of Evil. It's the same story, but it's just happening in a side-scrolling view. And it's actually like a rowing, a boat scene also into the screen. So the thing was, I got this like super cheap, and then I realized why was I was probably so eager to get this because I saw it so cheap. I didn't really look at the picture very well, and I was like, oh wait, when I got it, I'm like, where's the manual? Turns out the manual was not included. I was like, God damn it, how could you miss that, Chris? So the manual actually I ordered separately. It showed up today. So now it is officially complete. Put it in here on screen or on camera. Yo. There we go. Now it is complete. Holla. Okay. Yeah, and like I said, the soundtracks on these games are absolutely fantastic. So can't wait to actually sit down and play these, which led me to getting Turok 3 Shadow of Oblivion. And this, too, is a side-scrolling action game. But this one looks more like the original Metal Gear on the NES. It's kind of like a diagonal, top-down type of game. But like I said, the original version on the N64 was a first-person shooter. So, yeah. Lethal arsenals, including the missile launcher, plasma rifle, and many more. Pilot a heavy armored jeep, a gunboat, and a vicious tank. Battle hideous dino enemies like the Entrail, Mercenary, and Vigilance Robot. Travel to the Lost Island and join forces with the Solitary Order in their transdimensional battle to save the Earth. And the soundtrack to this one is also pretty badass as well, so I had to pick that one up also. There's actually a version of the first game available on the original Game Boy, but it is really, really expensive. So I don't know if I'll be able to get that one, but those two are awesome. But the one that I had my eye on for the longest freaking time on eBay, and I have had it in my watch list forever, and it finally dropped in price. Let me fix this because it's kind of torn up. Yeah, I was finally able to add this to my collection. I'm super happy about it. Is Blade for the Game Boy Color. You know me and my license games, we got a thing going on. And Blade and Blade 2 are two of my favorite films. And I remember watching a Let's Play of this like years ago and thinking that it looked kind of cool. It's like a side-scrolling beat-em-up. Based on the events, I think, of the first movie, I do believe. You're Blade, the world's baddest vampire hunter. When a vampire clan gets deadly, you go deep to do some serious demon killing. Expert martial arts and an arsenal of intense weapons send the undead to an early grave. Again, plan on staying up late tonight, and even greater evil awaits. Live the film. Take on the gruesome creatures of the night. Ammo, baby. Guns, knives, poison darts, and of course swords. Choose your poison. Variable difficulty, multiple endings, and constant action. This was developed by the HAL Corporation, people that do the Kirby games. That's funny. But it was released by Activision. So absolutely thrilled to finally add this to my collection. I've been wanting to have this forever, and I now think have all the Blade games. I have Blade on the PlayStation 1. I have this. I have Blade 2 on the PlayStation 2. I think that's all the Blade games. Hooray! So now we can move on to Game Boy Advance. And these are two games that I've had my eye on forever. They've been in my watch list for a long, long time. And I found this first one because, was it last year? Or the year before? I don't remember when I bought it. Captain Algebra and I think it was TJ and Rocket Sauce came down to visit. It might have been when... No, it wasn't when Man Boy Cave and Midwest Media Show came down. I think it was when TJ was with us. I found while we were out game hunting the Game Boy Advance version of Altered Beast. And it's like its own game. It's not a port of any of the other games in the series. It's like its own thing. And everyone was like, I didn't know there was an Altered Beast game available for the Game Boy Advance. I'm like, neither did I. And that's why I bought it. So I looked it up after that to see if there was any other like Sega properties on the Game Boy Advance that I didn't know about. And yeah, there's like a Crazy Taxi game. And there's also Space Channel 5, Ooh La La's Cosmic Attack. What? This is a Dreamcast game that has like a sequel, prequel, I don't know what the hell it is, on the GBA, which is funny as hell to me. It says, meet Ooh La La, the grooviest reporter in the galaxy. She's got attitude, the moves, and the savvy to scoop a story, all while saving the universe from invading Marolians. Battle against Pudding, Jaguar, and more on 18 unique stages, set in a colorful, retro-futuristic environment. Hip, eye-catching moves combined with fun, funky zap attacks. I haven't tried this yet, and I'm really curious what the music is like, since that was a big part of what made the Dreamcast version so much fun. It was like this weird 60s style, like retro funk music that was really catchy and entertaining. So I'm hoping this at least gets that part right, and if it controls well, because it was basically like playing Simon. Like the aliens that you're fighting up against do like a series of moves, be like up, down, shoot, 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 and then you have to repeat that to beat them. So really excited about that. But the other one is, and I think this closes out. No, because I think there's still one available on the Nintendo 64. Not Nintendo 64, Nintendo DS. Whatever. There is was a cartoon based on the Mummy that came out, I think, in the 2000s, that this Game Boy Advance game is based on. And this is one of those kind of expensive games that came out for this console, and I was willing to pay it because I wanted to get all the Mummy games. Because as much as I like the first two, I'm not a fan of the third one. Didn't even realize there was a cartoon until I started looking up this. But it says, unlock the mysteries of the undead as you race against time and the terrifying mummy Imhotep in this non-stop action adventure. And I think this is more based on the second movie, because it's like Rick, Evie, and their son. But the son isn't like as young as he was. Well, no, maybe this is kind of Mummy Returns, because he's got that bracelet on that he had in the second movie. Whatever. But it's like a top-down action game. And it looks super fun. So wanted to get this because one of the subsets I wanted to go for is get all the Game Boy, or get all the Mummy games that are out there. And I have Mummy on the PlayStation 1. I have Mummy Returns and Dragon Emperor on the PlayStation 2. I have this. I have the games of Part 1 and 2 on the Game Boy Color. Like I said, I think there's also one that's on the DS. So, game based on the cartoon, based on the movie, I'm in. It's kind of expensive. I'm assuming if you're going to just get cart only, it'd be less expensive. I think Captain Algebra said that the store that he works at has the cart version, or the cart only version of this there. So if you're interested, maybe talk to him. He can get you a discount. But it looks super fun. So had to pick that up. And now we're on to the more modern games. And this is where I got a little mad. So, number one, I had forgotten that I had ordered these things probably well over a year ago. Probably more than a year. I want to say maybe like a year and a half. I don't know. And then like this package randomly shows up on my doorstep the other day. And I'm like, the fuck is this? And I open it up. I'm like, I remember saying to myself, because I saw Captain Algebra streaming one of these things on his channel. And I remember saying to myself, I wish I did order that back when it was, being released. Because Cap did say that it took over a year for it to get to him anyway. And he was kind of annoyed about that as well. And then it shows up on my doorstep. I'm like, oh, I did order that. I don't even remember doing it. And this other thing here is probably the reason why I didn't get this until now, because the release of this second thing was probably what was holding up the release, because they will not ship you anything. If you've ordered multiple things in one order, when all of them are available is when they get shipped out. They don't get shipped out separately, which is kind of stupid, but whatever. So the thing that for the PS4 that I had ordered years ago and did not remember that I did is the Steel Empire Chronicles. This is a collection from Strictly Limited that has, I think, 3 or 4 Steel Empire games in here. There's the one that's on the Genesis. There's one on the Game Boy Advance, which I don't think we got over here. And there's a couple of like computer versions on it or something also. I don't remember. But Cap streamed a bunch of them on his channel, and they look super fun. They're like steampunk shmups, and you're like playing as a blimp, like an armored blimp. And I have the one for the Genesis, and I thought that was one of the more underrated games on that console. So I guess I was really interested in getting all the other games in the series that I won't be able to afford or whatever. So we'll see. But yeah, when this showed up, I was like, oh, I guess I did order that. How long did this freaking take to get to me? And what makes me mad is like to say sorry. What's up, Peter? It's a shmup. Yeah, it's like a steampunk shmup. The thing that annoyed me is the way that Strictly Limited said, sorry for it taking so long for it to get to you, is to send me a stack of postcards of all their other games and stickers. I'm not 12. So they sent me a sticker of Zero Tolerance Underground 16-bit. I don't know what this is. It's an 8-ball. They sent me this sticker for one of their Cotton games. March and Adventure Cotton. 100%. I got a postcard for Steel Empire Chronicles. I got one for the IREM collection, which is something you're going to see in a bit. One for Tokyo 42, which is the first game they ever released, and I think I got rid of... No, I think I still do have this in my collection. I purged a bunch of my PS4 collection. A Magical High School Girl. I don't know what the hell that is. Fox and Forests, which I do have. Knights of Pen and Paper, which I do have. Heaven's Vault. Sisters Royale. 99 Vitas, which I think is one of the other, like one of the first things that they ever released. I think I still have this on the Vita. Air Twister, which I do have. Necrosphere Deluxe. Iron Meat. A sticker for the King's Bird. Whatever. And another sticker for Clockwork Aquario. I'm like, you just send me a bunch of shit you had lying around to say sorry. I'm like, up your butt. I don't collect these things like that. It's dumb. It's a shmup. Mail those postcards out like it's 1989. Yep, but Cotton games are fun. I do have a couple of Cotton games. Iron Meat is a more recent game, right? Yeah, it is, and it's one that I missed. But I also think that Limited Run put out a copy of that as well, and I missed that too. So if I do want a copy of it because it's like a Contra-style run and gun, if I remember correctly. It does cost quite a bit of money. It's like $80 or something. The deal of the day thing that Rocket Sauce always, it's like a little in-joke I have between he and I, was we found the first game in this series for the PS5 when we went out game hunting in Wisconsin. I think it was like the second time we all went. I think it was the time when we went out with Tiger Chainsaw, because he took us to this new store called The Pad that we had never been to before. And they had like 5 copies of the first game in the series sealed on the shelf, and it was like more than half off. It was like this was $70 game, which I've been putting off buying because I didn't want to pay $70, and they were charging like $30 for it. So remember, he and I were like, "This is the deal of the day!" So we each got a copy, and I've been putting off buying the second game in the series because I just started playing the first one, and I'm kind of enjoying it. The jury's still out. But there was like a director's cut that was released on the PS5, which is why I was holding off on this, thinking that there's going to be a director's cut for this also. Turns out there's not going to be. And then over the weekend on Saturday, I log on to Blue Sky, and Cheap Ass Gamer is like, hey, this game is on sale right now on Amazon for $30. That's like 57% off or 67% off or whatever. And I was like, okay, now I'll buy. So deal of the day. And that is Death Stranding 2 on the beach. Like I said, I just started playing the first game, and it's okay so far. I don't know if I like it yet, but I'm not that far into it. I'm maybe like 3 or 4 hours in. So went to the concert for Death Stranding last month with Church, the Game Grinder, and Ryan, Rocket Sauce from the Cartridge Club, and really liked the music, even though I was not familiar with the games at all. Didn't think it was going to be all singing, though. Like, I want to say like half the stuff we heard were actual songs and not just score. And they had like a male vocalist and a female vocalist come out and sing all these songs. And it turns out the male vocalist was singing all the songs by Low Roar, who sang them for the game, but the guy that is in Low Roar passed away. So this other guy that they had on the tour is doing all the songs for him. And I hear and I've seen what I've seen of this game is it's absolute lunacy. It's absolutely crazy. There's so much crazy ass shit going on here. Like there is a guy who plays a guitar that shoots lasers out of it, and it also is usable as a sword, and he holds it by like the neck and swings it like an axe at people. It is the weirdest shit. But what do you expect from Hideo Kojima? So eventually I'll get around to this. I got to beat the first game before I play through this, obviously. Has a bigger cast, though. Elle Fanning is in this one. And the game that held back me getting that Steel Empire collection it was this, because this took longer to release. And I think I had ordered this. I think this is what I went to Strictly Limited to order. And while I was there, I must have said, oh, another shmup. I'll pick up that Steel Empire thing. But I think this was what I intended to buy. And it is the IREM Collection Volume 1. These are all shmups that IREM released on arcades. These are the arcade versions of Image Fight 2, and X Multiply, which I'm not really that familiar with. And I do believe it might have like the NES. I'll just open this up. It might have like the NES versions on it as well, because I know there's one of Image Fight. At least the first one. Well, there's a band around the midsection I can rip open. Please hold. Come on. There we go. IREM Collection Volume 1. Let's see. Image Fight 2, X Multiply. Yeah, it looks like it's just the arcade versions, which is fine with me. So, I love my shmups now. Get to play arcade versions at home. Hails to the yeah. So, there is that. And that is it for tonight. Look at that. Clocked it in under 2 hours. I'm so happy with myself, and I got all this shit to put away now. Yeah, thanks everybody for coming and hanging out with me. I hope, did you enjoy the stuff? Is there stuff you think I should still look for to add to my collection? Barely under 2 hours. There we go. Back to Waves and Games. Yeah, way more books than I thought I would ever talk about in a stream before. Yeah, and I'll be back on Thursday night to continue streaming Anno Mutation M, which is turning out to be really, really fun. So 9 p.m. Central for that on Thursday. And I can probably stay up super late to stream that for a long time because I have Friday off because of the holiday. So that would be awesome. We'll see how it goes. See how I'm feeling. And then after that, back to the regular stream schedule. So thanks everybody for hanging out with me tonight. I really appreciate it. Happy you had a good time. I hope I was entertaining. Hope I showed you some stuff that was pretty cool. Maybe inspired you to buy some stuff too. I don't know. We'll see. But I'll talk to you all later. And don't forget, April is the Midwest Gaming Classic. So the pickup video at the end of next month is going to be epic as fuck. Be prepared. I got my tax return, which is what funds my purchases at the convention every year, was bigger than it's ever been before. This year, I don't know if that had anything to do with Herr Fuhrer or not, but whatever. So things are going to be bought, lots and lots of things. So prepare yourself. That's pretty normal for my pickups, yeah. And I'll definitely see Bobby there and Captain Algebra and everyone else. We're also getting together for dinner on Saturday night. So if you are planning on being at the Midwest Gaming Classic in April in Milwaukee, let me know. We are planning a dinner at, what is it called? TV Repair? Let me look it up real quick. Don's TV and Repair Speakeasy. And reminds me, I need to make a reservation for that room again for Saturday night. Yeah, and it is super awesome. They have smash burgers and alcoholic shakes. And they stuck us in the Star Wars room last year, which was awesome. And basically they had a giant TV playing episodes of Skeleton Crew the whole time we were there, which was rad. The food was great. So yeah, if you're planning on going and you want to hang out on Saturday night and get dinner, let me know. So yep, I will talk to you all later. Have a good night. Chris of Midlife Crisis Media out.